So here's the scenario. You were out perhaps at a bar, maybe at a barbecue, got talking to a bunch of guys. One of them announced that he's got a catamaran and he was thinking of going out in the next couple of days. He says, does anybody fancy coming along as crew? And you think, oh yeah, I'll have some of that. You put your hand up. But then since you've done that, you really don't know what to expect or what is going to be required of you. Well, let's take a look and see what you're in for. Well, you could just turn up and go for it. That is quite likely going to be absolutely fine. Or you could watch this video and then maybe you'll have a bit more of an idea of what to expect. Hello, yes, it's Joe here for JOYRIDER TV. And what we're going to look at here is what you can expect on your first time out as crew on a small catamaran. The first thing that might come as a surprise after signing up is that the boat is not a 50-foot long luxury cruising catamaran built for sunbathing, lounging and long drinks. Instead, it's a 16-foot Hobie or similar, built for fast and wet beach-based sailing. First, it's good to get a handle on the different positions of the people on the boat. The first one is the boat owner or the person who invited you to go for a sail. We'll call him the skipper. He could also be known as the helmsman. The other person or people on the boat will all be known as the crew. They're there to maybe just enjoy the ride, perhaps control one of the sails, add a little bit to the balance of the boat, that kind of thing. Nothing too pressing. In case you're wondering, I'm just saying he or his for convenience. I'm not suggesting that all skippers are men. Firstly and most importantly, don't worry. The skipper is going to be taking care of pretty much everything. Make sure that he knows your level of experience. You can ask him also to give you clear instructions for anything that is required of you at the time. Small catamarans, like the Hobie 16, usually sail with a team of 2 people on board, sometimes 3, and occasionally 4 if it's a slightly bigger boat. There are a few things that would be well worth finding out before you're actually going to go out sailing. Where it is that you're going to be sailing, I think it's nice to know if you're going to be sailing on the open sea, perhaps you're going out on a lake, maybe a large river, something like that, but nice to know, but not essential. None of this is essential, but it's all nice to know. How much wind there is likely to be. This is going to have a major effect on your sailing experience. If the wind is quite light and it's going to be a hot sunny day, then you could just be out on a bit of a sunbathing, jolly outing, maybe looking for dolphins or something, which would be very nice. But if it's going to be quite strong wind, it might be a white knuckle thrill ride, which will be very, very exciting, but quite a different experience. And then it will also be a good idea to find out what is the nature of the outing. It could be that the boat is kept on a nice sandy beach, very light wind, and the skipper just likes taking people out for like half an hour at a time just to do a cruise around the bay, have a chat, come back in, barbecue on the beach, that kind of thing. That sounds pretty good actually. Or at the other end of the scale, it could be you're needed as a crew for a race where the experience could be quite different, but it's really a great experience to get involved in a catamaran or sailing boat race. So it's good to have an idea of what to expect. It's well worth finding out what gear you are going to need and what is going to be provided. The one thing you might need to supply is some sort of footwear. If you're sailing off a beach which isn't a nice sandy beach, there's a chance that just putting the boat in and out of the water is going to be quite uncomfortable underfoot. So to have like an old pair of trainers that is absolutely fine to go sailing in as long as you don't mind getting them wet. You are going to be getting wet up to perhaps the waist, if not a bit more, when it comes to launching and bringing the boat back in. It's a good idea to ask if there is the chance of a capsize. Not essential to know, but just nice to know. A sneaky question you could ask is, how long have you had the boat? That's a polite way of finding out how much experience the skipper has. If he says, I've just picked it up last week, and then he says, oh yeah, it's going to be pretty windy, then perhaps you could say, actually, for my first time, I'd prefer to go out in a light wind just to get a feel for it. That could be a bit safer. And then the final thing to find out is what is likely to be the duration of the sailing outing. If you should take with you on the boat some water, perhaps some small snacks, like something to keep you going, like a banana, or perhaps a bar of chocolate, which will probably melt. It's action time. First thing we're going to need to do is get our kit on. If you are going to be wearing a wetsuit, just take a minute to work out what is the front and what is the back. A good way of identifying the front is if it's a full wetsuit, there'll be some sort of padding on the knees, and if it's a short wetsuit, just look for any labels or tags. The zip can more often be at the back than the front, but it may be at the front, so do have a good look to avoid looking foolish before you've even started. So next we may be putting on a trapeze harness, which is going to look something like this. We have a hook that sticks out in front. If you are going to be wearing a trapeze harness and it's hot weather, it is a good idea to be wearing some shorts, because otherwise the straps that go round the legs can become uncomfortable if you were thinking of going out maybe just in a bikini or in your Speedos. So shorts, a good idea. And then we're just going to step in through the leg loops. Again, your skipper should be helping you with this. And then we'll pull it up. Keeping the shorts under control as we pull it up. Okay, and then there'll be a shoulder strap that goes over the shoulder, would you believe? And then the other shoulder strap, and then that will clip together somehow. Not all harnesses are exactly the same as this, but this is a fairly standard design. And then we just need to tighten up all the straps. So the ones that need to be the tightest are the straps that hold the hook, which we tighten here, and we'll pull that in both sides so we keep the hook in the middle. Then the straps that go around the legs need to be the next tightest, so we'll pull those tight. Then once those are tight, we can then pull the back strap, but not so that we're completely hunched over, just so that it's not flapping. So once the harness is on, we can then put on our buoyancy aid. Again, check with the buoyancy aid, have a look at it, work out which is the front, which is the back before putting it on. A lot of the time there'll be a zip pocket on the front, there'll be a label in the back, and there are, again, a lot of different types of buoyancy aids out there, but with this style, it just goes over the head. And then there's a small zip at the side and a belt with a clip. So there we are ready to go. But if you are going to be trapezing, it's a good idea, if it's possible, to ask the skipper if you can have a go at trapezing on the land before you're going out on the water, so that you can have a bit of a practice before actually going out there. Okay, so sitting on the boat, we're going to be sitting on the trampoline towards the edge, which is on the opposite side to the sails. This will become quite obvious, and once again your skipper should be giving you some very clear instructions for where it is that you should be sitting. With your legs in towards the middle of the boat, looking forwards because that's where we're going, you're going to be controlling the smaller sail on the boat, which is called the jib, using the jib sheet. A sheet is the name of a rope that controls the sail. You might have to pull it in or let it out. There is also what's called a cleat. The cleat is basically there to hold the rope so that you don't need to hold it all of the time. You pull it down to cleat it, lift it up to release it. You won't need to decide how much you need to pull in the jib. The skipper should be responsible for that, saying things like, pull the jib in, let the jib out. Usually the jib sheet that you'll be operating will be from the opposite side of the boat, so you'll be holding the jib sheet across the boat like this. The skipper might also ask you to move forwards or backwards or around the boat. And when moving around the boat, generally on your knees is a good way to move around, or depending on your level of mobility, you might have to shuffle around on your bottom, but the knees is a good way of getting around the boat like that. When it's time to go out onto the trapeze, this is what we're going to use. This is the trapeze gear. This is the trapeze ring, and the ring will hook on to the hook of the harness. Then from there, what we're going to do is front hand on the handle like this, back hand on the side of the boat. The wider you have these apart, it's going to make it easier, and you just shuffle back until you're hanging on the trapeze. The trapeze wire is very strong, so don't worry about whether that will support your weight. So this is halfway trapezing, and then to get to full trapezing, you just swing back a little bit like this, using your hand on the side, bring your front foot to the side of the boat, and then you're just going to do one big push, bringing your other foot, and then there we are. This is trapezing. And then when you're out on the trapeze, it's a good idea to have the jib sheet in your hand. The skipper, of course, will be giving you instructions at all time. The jib sheet, as well as being able to control the jib, is really handy for your stability when you're out here. The wider you have your feet apart, the more stable you're going to feel. But as you feel more confident, you can put your feet slightly closer together for a more professional look. You can walk up and down the side of the boat as required by the skipper. You might say go forwards a bit, which means go towards the front, or come back a bit, meaning come towards the back. And then when it's time to come in, if you've been holding the jib sheet, you can throw the jib sheet into the boat, grab hold of the handle with your front hand, get ready with your back hand for the side of the boat, lift your legs up, and then just pull your bottom over the side of the boat with the handle. And then once you're on the boat, just be unhooked while you are on the boat. a hook in, making sure that that is hooked in. Then we're going to use the front hand on the handle, pushing it away slightly, which is just gonna, you're gonna feel that tugging on your hook, and that means that you're definitely hooked on. Backhand is gonna go on the side of the boat, working our way out until we're hanging, and we can hang there all day long if we want. And then we're gonna go backwards slightly, bring the front foot to the edge, back foot comes out, and there we are. That is trapezing. And then when it's time to come back in, we're just gonna take the handle with the front hand, backhand ready for the side of the boat, bending the knees, lifting the feet up over the edge, and then pulling ourselves up over the edge, and there we are, back on the boat. So you probably don't actually need to know any of this in advance, but it's nice to know what you are in for out on the water. A good skipper will give you plenty of instructions in plenty of time, so there really shouldn't be anything to worry about. If you want to find more, if you want to find out more about catamaran sailing before you go, or perhaps after you've been, then do check out the JOYRIDER TV YouTube channel, where there are many videos which can help you with learning how to sail a catamaran. Here's a playlist to get you started. But other than that, I hope you have a great first sail, and let me know in the comments if you have been out for your first time and how you got on. Thanks very much. My name's Joe. This is JOYRIDER TV, and I'll be back soon with some more.